Yo, guys, Justin Jaynes here, and we are in fight week for the one of the most anticipated. And Huzefa did a survey on the 10-7 channel, and this is the most anticipated fight of the year thus far. We have Khamzat Chimaev versus Dricus Du Plessis, guys. Very, very exciting fight. I want to weigh in my 2 cents. We've talked on the live show of who I think is going to win, and my heart says one way, my mind says another. This is such a great matchup. We have 2 guys undefeated in the UFC, DDP being 9-0 in the UFC, Khamzat being 8-0 in the UFC. DDP does have 2 losses on his record, but it was out of the UFC, guys. So, let's get down to this, man. You guys have known, my heart is going with DDP. I just think he's defied the odds so many times, and he just keeps doing it over and over and over. And it's just hard for me to root against such a true underdog like himself. And I was going through the odds this morning, and I saw DDP at like plus 210. Might even been a little bigger than that. We can recheck here in a second. But he's a 2-1 underdog in this fight. But he thrives in these conditions. He's always the underdog. And me being an underdog throughout my career, throughout my life, essentially, I always root for the underdog in this fight. But let's take a look at our 2 fighters coming up. We're going to start with our challenger, Khamzat Chimaev. And as you guys know, I love using Tapology. I think they're a great source of information, and it's all on one page. So we're going to look at Khamzat Chimaev, 14-0. This is an interesting fact. He was born in 1994, May of 1994. DDP was born in January of 1994. So these guys are essentially the same weight class. Here's another crazy fact. I believe they both made their UFC debut in 2020. Let's take a look at it. Yep, July of 2020. And when we let's look at some of these fights that Khamzat had. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. John Phillips. This is, I don't know why he got a performance of the night, and I don't even know how I got to round 2. John Phillips is a guy that I was actually scheduled to fight at middleweight. John Phillips and I were going to go to the UK and fight. And when I was preparing for John Phillips, he's known as the White Mike Tyson. All right. This guy has power. He's one of the most powerful strikers I've ever prepared for. He's been to Extreme Couture. I knew what I was getting myself into, but I thought my wrestling could overcome him. Unfortunately, the fight never happened. I had passport issues getting to the UK to fight John. But regardless, incredible striker. DDP, huge favorite in this fight, I would assume. Finishes him with the Darce choke, round 2. Nothing surprise there. Reyes McKee, I can't tell you much about. I don't know much about. Ground and pound, another performance tonight. Now you look at Gerald Mersearch, and if you guys remember this fight, this was a brutal knockout by Khamzat. And just to show the world, Gerald's been around for a long time, incredible grappler. I thought Khamzat was going to shoot in, and I think that's what Gerald was expecting too. But that right straight down the middle put him in his tracks. This kind of fight right here made him kind of famous. Jing Lang Lee, like I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. But if you guys remember, this is when he got on Jing's back, picked him up, carried him over to Dana White, started talking trash. You look at Gilbert Burns. What an incredible fight this was. Gets performance bonus, a back-and-forth fight. But I really felt Gilbert showed the world that Khamzat is human. He can be hurt. You look at Kevin Holland. Bad matchup for Kevin Holland. Khamzat being a weight bully coming into this fight. Then you look up beating our former champion, Kamaru Usman, short notice. And, this fight really caught me off guard. Robert Whitaker goes in there and breaks his teeth from a rear naked choke. First round, gets the easy finish. One thing that I haven't loved about Khamzat through the years is he comes onto the scene fast. Look at 2020, 3 fights, 3 performance bonuses. July, 10 days apart. Then September. Then he's going to fight Leon Edwards in December. Man, this was incredible. Then 1 month later, and this is the problem I have with Khamzat is right here. It's these long layoffs, 3 canceled bouts. I don't remember why they got canceled. But, he looks like he took over a year off here. We go from September 2020, all the way to October 30th. And then he has a wrestling match, no problem. 2022, a long time later, another long layoff, 21-22. Fights Kevin Holland. See, this I think 2 fights a year is good. Keeps you relevant, keeps you insane, or keeps you sane, keeps you in the public eye. Because remember, out of sight, out of mind, has Nate Diaz scheduled, which I think is an easy walkthrough fight for him. Gets canceled. Paul Acosta gets canceled. Then he gets a short notice scrap after the Paul Acosta fallout with Kamaru Usman, former champ. But I felt he was a weight bully in that fight. That's in October of 23. Then we have to go all the way to October. So he comes onto the scene hot, fights a lot, but my problem with Khamzat, and I like him a lot. I like him on the mic. I think he's an incredible fighter. He finishes guys. I think his average fight time is like 6 minutes, which is just insane. Gets in there, 1 year, but again, out of sight, out of mind. And fortunately, I mean, geez, we're almost a year later since he's fought Robert Whittaker. Came onto the scene hot 3 times in 1 year. Look at 2020, great. Then canceled. He's had, 6 canceled bouts in the UFC since, him making his way onto the scene. Now, again, not taking away from his credibility. I think he's an incredible fighter. I think he's a force to reckon with. He can beat anybody on any given day. And honestly, not only can he beat anybody on any given day, I feel he can finish anybody on any given day, including DDP. Now, let's look over at our champion. Real quick here. Share screen. Dricus Du Plessis, a true underdog in the UFC, keeps pulling off the upsets, comes into this fight, 23 wins, 2 losses. Those 2 losses were in different organizations. As I mentioned before, January 14th, 1994, making his debut in 2020. Both of these guys have been all around for only 5 years. Both of these guys are undefeated in the UFC. Like I said, I believe he was 9-0 in the UFC. And you have Khamzat on the other side, who's 8-0 in the UFC. Now let's take a look at some of his matchups. Marcus Perez, don't know anything about him. Left hook, finishes him in the first round. Great. Trevin Giles, relatively kind of familiar with him. Gets performance of the night, finishes him in the second round. Ground and pound. Then we had all these canceled bouts here, and I don't really know 4 canceled bouts in a row. But the thing with me is he stayed relevant. He ended up fighting Trevin. I wonder why these fights got canceled. 2020, October, not very much. Goes into the next year, less than a year, fights again. He did a little bit of layoff here as well. Brad Tavares, not only one of my teammates, not only one of my good friends, but somebody that I really look up to at Extreme Couture, spearfishing buddy of mine. This guy's our team captain over at Extreme Couture. Brad Tavares is a savage. He's been in the sport for as long as I can remember. He's on the Ultimate Fighter. He's been able to string wins even late in his career. This is an incredible win right here. All right. And then we go, 6 months later, Darren Till. Darren Till came out of the hot, super hot. A lot of hype behind him. Kind of fizzled out towards the end. Now he's working a career in boxing, which is great. Gets performance bonus and a finish. Derek Brunson, incredible fighter. Corner stoppage. Robert Whittaker finishes him with a jab. Like what? Just that off, awkward stances. Volkanovski and Rodriguez get performance bonus. Sean Strickland, my teammate, former UFC champion. Love him or hate him. This guy works his butt off. Gets the split decision win. Israel Adesanya, or as Jesus says, Adesanya. He gets a finish there, man. That incredible win. I did not see that coming. Again, for once, I didn't think he was going to beat Robert Whittaker. I didn't think he was going to beat Sean Strickland. I didn't think he was going to beat Adesanya. I bet on all 3 of these fights and lost. And then I come up, Sean Strickland again. I was like, there's no way he can beat Sean Strickland twice. And lo and behold, he goes out there and beats Sean Strickland very, very convincingly. Let's talk about these layoffs per fight if he has long layoffs. We go from 2020 all the way to 21. He had a canceled bout, fights Trevin Giles, has 4 canceled bouts for whatever reason. But then we got 2022. Okay, fought twice in 1 year. 2023, again, twice in 1 year. 2024, twice in 1 year. I think that at the top level, you guys need to be fighting twice a year. 3 times can be a lot. That's once every 4 months, but twice a year is more than enough to stay relevant. Sean Strickland, fights him this year, beats him in February. Now already turning around and fighting the undefeated 14-0 Khamzat. Guys, you guys know my take in this fight. Khamzat's supposed to win this fight. He's a 2-1 favorite in this fight. He has all the hype behind him. He seems like an unstoppable force. Gilbert Burns had some moments, but, realistically lost that fight as a total. Let's look at some of these stats now. Between these 2 guys. Back to our shared screen here. Now we're going to go to UFC stats. All right, here's our tail of the tape. 23-2. Those 2 losses, again, reiterating, not in UFC against 14-0. Now here's a big thing that excites me about this. We look at their average fight time. Dricus Du Plessis is used to almost going 3 rounds with almost a 14-minute average fight time. And then you look at Khamzat Chimaev, his average time is 6 minutes. People talk about this playing a huge factor in the fight. I think the longer the fight goes, the better DDP can do, especially if he can get up. Because the question isn't going to be, can DDP not get taken down? It's after he gets taken down, can he get up? And then you look at a couple of these other stats, and these guys are virtually identical. You look at their height, they're 1 inch apart, both at the 85-pound weight class. Look at their reach, 1 inch apart. Switch stance, southpaw stance. Look at these. I mean, like I mentioned before, they're almost exactly the same age. Now, we go into strikes landed per minute. All right. over 6 strikes landed per minute compared to almost 5.5 strikes. Guys, again, virtually identical. Striking accuracy, 48% to 58%. I mean, 58%, that's, essentially 6 out of 10 strikes landing. When you have a striking accuracy of 5 out of 10, that's 50%, man. This is such a great fight. Strikes absorbed per minute. Now, DDP takes a lot of damage, man. Almost 5 strikes per minute absorbed. When you look at the contrary of, almost barely more than 3 on the other hand, Khamzat has very, very powerful striking, and this could play a factor. But again, as the later the fight goes, DDP thrives. We look at their defense, 54 to 41, relatively close, but you have the 4 out of 10 to almost 5.5, 55%. Now this is big right here. Takedown average per 15 minutes, 2.5 to Khamzat's 4.3 every 15 minutes. Now it's hard to gauge that on Khamzat because his average fight time is that's his takedown average. So he's shooting, 4 times every 15 minutes. But then you have to look at his average fight time is only 6 minutes. So I don't know how accurate this number is compared to how often. And again, I don't think the question is, can DDP stay off his back? It's, can DDP get up after he gets taken down? Look at their takedown accuracy, 50%, but his output is a lot less. Takedown accuracy, 40%, but his takedown, average is a lot more. Takedown defense, 50%. Then Khamzat has never been taken down, guys. Huge stat right here. If DDP can weather the storm early on and get up, he might be able to take Khamzat down later in the round and change this around. I think that would just be incredible, especially if he can put Khamzat in his back. Sometimes look at our submissions average. DDP doesn't go for that many submissions. Khamzat, again, with the average fight time. We look at these recent fights, man, just such an incredible matchup. Both of these guys undefeated in the UFC. And these stats, some of these stats are just so close. Again, reiterate, same height, same weight, same reach, same birthday. Like, it's just incredible, guys. And I can see why everyone's all excited about this fight. And, honestly, I am as well. I mean, how could you not be? This is my second most anticipated fight of the year behind Islam and JDM. Now, how do I think this fight's going to go? And then when I look at the paper, guys, I think and feel that Khamzat is going to manhandle DDP, but my heart says DDP. DDP is a true underdog, guys. He's an underdog in all his fights. I've thought he's going to lose over and over and over, and he's used to being in this position. Now you have someone like Khamzat who's expected to come in and dominate fight after fight after fight, and there's so much more pressure on Khamzat to show up. Because if DDP goes in there and loses, everyone's like, oh, see, told you so. But if somehow DDP goes in there and wins, how incredible would this be for his legacy? This is David and Goliath. DDP is used to this position. I don't think Khamzat is. Also, this is Khamzat's first title shot. How is he going to deal with all this pressure? And we get to watch in real time a true cyborg of the sport, Khamzat Chimaev, unbeaten in the UFC, unbeaten in his MMA career. See if he can rise to the challenge. But then again, that champion, that true underdog on the other side. My heart says DDP. I'm taking DDP. My wallet says DDP, 2-1, bet $100 to win 210. I'm going DDP, guys. Even though everything else says not to, I'm going DDP. And if I lose a couple $100, I'm fine with it. But I always root for the underdog. Guys, tell me what you think in the comments. Really appreciate your time.